The library at Chuka University was more than a building, it was a refuge. Its walls carried the weight of countless ambitions, its silence was thick with unspoken prayers. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a pale glow across rows of wooden tables scarred by years of restless pens and anxious elbows. The air smelled faintly of ink and dust, the kind of scent that clung to old books and whispered of knowledge long stored. Claire sat alone at the far corner, her posture rigid, her pen scratching furiously across a notebook filled with equations. Her eyes darted between the textbook and her notes, as though each word carried the weight of her future. She was the kind of student who believed perfection was survival. Her thoughts spiraled, if I fail this exam, I fail my mother. If I fail my mother, I fail myself. And if I fail myself, what's left? The chair beside her scraped against the floor. Claire looked up, startled. A boy with a wide grin and a casual air dropped his bag onto the table. You always look like you're solving the world's hardest puzzle. Claire, frowning slightly, said, Maybe I am. Then let me be your assistant. Claire blinked, unsure whether to laugh or dismiss him. Kelvin's presence was disarming, his shirt untucked, his hair slightly messy, his eyes alive with mischief. He didn't belong in the rigid world she had built for herself. I don't need help. Everyone needs help. Even geniuses. He leaned over, peering at her notes. You're drowning in formulas. When was the last time you breathed? Claire got defensive. Breathing doesn't pass exams. Neither does suffocating. For the first time in weeks, Claire felt the corners of her mouth twitch upward. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was something. Claire thought. Who is this boy? Why does he care? He doesn't know me. He doesn't know the weight I carry. But his words, they feel lighter than mine. Maybe I need that. Maybe I need him. The rain began outside, tapping against the library windows. Students shuffled out, but Kelvin stayed. He pulled out his own notebook, though his pen barely moved. Instead, he watched Claire, as though her intensity fascinated him. You know, life isn't an exam. You don't need all the answers. Claire responded quietly, but what if I fail? Then you try again. And if you fail again, you try harder. That's how you win. Claire whispered, what if I fail you? Kelvin, smiling softly, said, you could never fail me. You're my safe place already. Claire's chest tightened. No one had ever said that to her before. Safe place. She had always been the one carrying burdens, never the one offering refuge. The rain grew heavier, drumming against the glass. Kelvin stood, slinging his bag over his shoulder. Kelvin, come on. Let's walk. You'll see the world doesn't end if you leave the library. Claire hesitated, then gathered her books. As they stepped into the rain together, she felt something shift, a fragile thread of connection weaving itself into her life. Chapter 2. The campus was alive with chatter, a symphony of voices rising from the cafeteria, the football field, and the shaded walkways lined with jacaranda trees. Students hurried between lectures, their laughter echoing against the concrete walls. For most, university was freedom, a place to discover themselves. For Claire, it was a battlefield. She walked with her books clutched tightly against her chest, eyes fixed on the ground. Every step felt like a test, every glance from a peer like a judgment. She lived in the margins, where silence was safer than conversation. Kelvin was the opposite. He thrived in the noise. His voice carried across the football pitch, his laughter spilled into crowded cafeterias, his presence filled every room. He was the kind of person who made friends without trying, who turned strangers into companions with a single smile. In the cafeteria, Claire sat at the edge of a long table, her tray untouched. Kelvin slid in beside her, balancing a plate piled high with food. You know, if you keep staring at rice like that, it won't solve your equations. Claire retorted dryly, maybe I'm calculating calories. Then you're failing. Calories don't matter if you're starving. He pushed a piece of chicken toward her. Claire hesitated, then took it. Claire looked at him. Why do you care if I eat? Because you forget to. And because I like seeing you alive. Claire's lips parted, but no words came. She looked down, hiding the warmth rising in her chest. Claire thought. He notices things. Things no one else does. I don't know if that makes me grateful or terrified. What if he sees too much? What if he sees the cracks? Later that day, she went to the football match. The stadium lights flickered as students cheered. Kelvin ran across the pitch, sweat glistening, his movements fluid. Claire sat in the stands, clutching her notebook, pretending to study. A friend nudged her. You're always here, but you never cheer. Claire softly said, I'm not here for the game. Her eyes followed Kelvin. He waved at her mid-run, grinning. She felt her heart stumble. After the game, under the jacaranda trees, Kelvin caught up with her. Why do you hide behind books? Because books don't judge me. Kelvin said, either do I. Claire, not looking at him, said, you will, eventually. Kelvin stopped, his expression softening. Claire, you're not a problem to solve. You're a person to love. Her breath caught. She wanted to believe him, but the weight of expectation pressed harder. Claire thought. He says I'm enough. But what if I'm not? What if one day he realizes I'm just a shadow clinging to his light? One evening, they sat on the hostel steps, the night air cool, stars scattered across the sky. I want to start a business. Something that makes life easier for people. Maybe tech, maybe farming. I don't know yet. You dream big. And you? Kevin asked. Claire hesitantly said, I want to teach. To make children believe they can be more than their circumstances. That's not small. That's everything. Claire looked at him, her heart aching. He believed in her more than she believed in herself. Campus life swirled around them, debates, laughter, music, but Claire and Kelvin carved their own rhythm. He pulled her into the noise, she anchored him in the quiet. Together, they balanced. Yet beneath Claire's fragile smiles, shadows lingered. She felt she was borrowing light from Kelvin, afraid of the day he might take it back. The semester pressed down like a storm cloud. Exams loomed, assignments piled high, and deadlines crept closer with every tick of the clock. For most students, stress was a passing shadow. For Claire, it was a permanent eclipse. She sat at her desk, the glow of her lamp casting sharp shadows across her notes. Her pen moved furiously, but the words blurred. Equations dissolved into meaningless symbols. She rubbed her temples, her chest tightening. I can't fail. I can't fail. If I fail, I lose everything. In the hostel room, Kelvin knocked softly before entering. He found her hunched over, papers scattered like fallen leaves. Claire, you've been at this for hours. You need a break. Claire snapped, breaks don't pass exams. Neither does burning yourself out. She glared at him, her eyes red from sleepless nights. You don't understand. My mother sacrificed everything for me. If I fail, I betray her. Kelvin spoke gently, you're not a betrayal. You're her pride. Claire turned away, her throat tight. She wanted to believe him, but the voice inside her screamed louder. Claire thought. He doesn't see it. He doesn't see the weight I carry. He thinks love is enough, but love doesn't pay tuition. Love doesn't erase failure. Love doesn't silence the darkness. In the lecture hall, Claire sat in the front row, her notebook open, but her mind drifted. The lecturer's words blurred into noise. Around her, students scribbled notes, whispered jokes, lived lives untouched by her torment. She glanced at Kelvin across the hall. He smiled at her, but she looked away. His ease felt like mockery. At night, Claire began writing letters. Not assignments, not essays, letters she never sent. I'm sorry, Kelvin. You deserve someone whole, not someone broken. I'm a burden. You carry me, but I only weigh you down. Mama, I love you. I know you pray for me, but I'm failing. I'm failing you. I'm failing myself. The letters piled up, hidden under her mattress, ink smudged by tears. Kelvin found her in the cafeteria sitting alone, her tray untouched. Claire, you're disappearing. You don't laugh anymore. You don't eat. You don't sleep. Claire said coldly, maybe disappearing is easier. Don't say that. You matter. Claire whispered, not enough. Kelvin reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Claire thought. He thinks he can save me. But what if I'm beyond saving? What if the darkness wins? Rain fell again, tapping against the hostel windows. Claire sat alone, staring at her notes, her reflection in the glass fractured by raindrops. She felt herself unraveling, thread by thread, day by day. Kelvin's love was a light, but she feared it was fading. And in the silence of her room, she began to wonder if the cracks inside her would ever heal, or if they would swallow her whole. The hostel was wrapped in silence, broken only by the steady drumming of rain against the tin roof. Shadows stretched across the walls, long and restless, as though the night itself was uneasy. Claire sat on the edge of her bed, her hands trembling, her mind a storm of voices. You're failing. You're a burden. You're not enough. She pressed her palms against her ears, but the voices grew louder. Her notes lay scattered across the floor, pages torn, ink smeared. The equations mocked her, the words blurred into accusations. A knock at the door. Kevin called out, Claire? It's me. She hesitated, then opened it. Kelvin stepped inside, his clothes damp from the rain, his eyes filled with concern. You've been shutting me out. Talk to me. Please. Claire's voice breaking. You don't see it, the darkness. It's inside me. It's winning. Then let me fight it with you. I'm sorry. I can't let you. Kelvin reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Tears streamed down her face. Claire thoughts. He thinks love can save me. But love is fragile. Love doesn't silence the voices. Love doesn't erase failure. If I let him stay, he'll drown with me. I can't let him drown. The rain grew heavier, pounding against the windows. Claire's breathing quickened, her chest tight. She reached for the knife she had hidden beneath her notes. Her hands shook violently. Kelvin's eyes widened. Claire, no. Put it down. We can fix this. Whatever it is, we'll fix it. Claire sobbing, I don't know how. Her trembling hand moved, a moment of madness, a storm of despair. Kelvin's shocked eyes met hers, confusion, pain, and love all at once. And then silence. Claire collapsed to the floor, the knife clattering beside her. Her breath came in ragged gasps. Kelvin lay still, his warmth fading. She stared at her hands, stained with the weight of what she had done. Oh God. I just killed him. Her voice cracked, swallowed by the storm outside. With trembling hands, she reached for paper. Her tears smudged the ink as she wrote. Oh God, I just killed him. The most hardworking woman on this earth is Mom, and I love her so much. I know you have been praying for me, but the devil took control. She wrote to Kelvin's family too, apologizing, begging for forgiveness, knowing forgiveness might never come. The rain slowed, leaving behind a heavy silence. Claire sat alone in the dim room, her letters scattered around her like broken pieces of her soul. Kelvin's absence filled the space, louder than any storm. And in that silence, Claire realized the darkness had not only consumed her, it had stolen the one person who had tried to save her. The room was heavy with silence. The rain had stopped, but its memory lingered in the damp air. Claire sat on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest, her breath shallow. Kelvin's absence was louder than any storm. Her hands trembled as she reached for paper. The pen felt heavy, as though it carried the weight of her soul. She pressed it down, ink bleeding into the page. A letter to her mother. Oh God, I just killed him. The most hardworking woman on this earth is Mum, and I love her so much. I know you have been praying for me, but the devil took control. She paused, tears smudging the words. Her mother's face appeared in her mind, lined with sacrifice, softened by love. Claire imagined her reading these words, imagined the pain they would bring. I'm sorry, Mama. I wanted to make you proud. I wanted to be your light. But I became your sorrow. Letter to Kelvin's family. Her pen moved again, slower this time. I don't know how to explain. He loved me, and I loved him, but I was broken. I couldn't carry the weight of my own mind. I am sorry. I am sorry for stealing him from you. I am sorry for stealing him from the world. She imagined his mother clutching the letter, his siblings reading it, their grief turning into questions she could never answer. In her mind. Words are fragile. They can't undo what I've done. They can't bring him back. But maybe they can show that I wasn't evil. I was lost. I was drowning. And I dragged him down with me. Finally, she wrote to herself. Claire, you tried. You tried to be perfect, to be strong, to be enough. But you were human. And humans break. I forgive you, even if no one else can. She folded the letters, placing them neatly on the desk. They looked small, insignificant against the vastness of her guilt. The night stretched on, the silence pressing against her chest. Claire sat beside the letters, her tears drying into salt on her skin. The words were her final offering, a fragile bridge between her broken mind and the world she was leaving behind. And though she knew forgiveness might never come, she hoped the letters would carry one truth, that she had loved, even in her brokenness. Morning broke heavy and gray, as though the sky itself mourned. The campus stirred slowly, whispers traveling faster than footsteps. By the time the sun rose fully, the news had spread, Kelvin was gone, and Claire was the reason. In the university grounds. Students gathered in clusters, their voices hushed, their faces pale. The cafeteria, once alive with chatter, was subdued. The library, Claire's sanctuary, felt haunted. They were inseparable. How could this happen? Another student said, she was brilliant, but fragile. Maybe we should have seen. Professors walked the corridors with heavy steps, staring at empty seats that once held promise. One lecturer paused mid-class, his voice faltering. Professor, she was one of my brightest. But sometimes brilliance hides battles we cannot see. Now at Kelvin's home. His mother sat in her living room, clutching his photo. Her tears fell silently, her body trembling. He was my son. My joy. My future. And now, nothing. His siblings sat nearby, their grief raw, their questions unending. His brother in his own mind questioned, why? Why would she do this? He loved her. He gave her everything. The letter Claire had written lay on the table, its words heavy with sorrow. But for them, no words could bridge the chasm Kelvin's absence left. Claire's family was in the same state as her mother read her daughter's letter over and over, her hands shaking. She was my child. She was my only child. Now I have none. Her prayers, whispered nightly, felt unanswered. She wept for the daughter she had raised with love, who had been consumed by darkness. The community was closely knot and in. The town, they gathered in grief. Vigils were held, candles flickering against the night. Students prayed, families mourned, strangers whispered. Community elder said, this is not just tragedy. It is a reminder. We must listen. We must see the pain behind the smiles. Many said Claire wasn't evil. She was broken. She carried too much, and in her breaking, she broke the one who loved her most. The university stood quieter, the laughter muted, the air heavy. 2 young lives had been extinguished, leaving behind questions with no answers. The aftermath was not just grief, it was reflection. A reminder that silence can be deadly, that unseen battles can consume even the brightest souls. And in the hearts of those left behind, sorrow mingled with empathy. For Kelvin, whose love was real. For Claire, whose pain was real. And for the fragile humanity that binds us all. The tragedy rippled outward like waves from a stone cast into still water. Each voice carried its own grief, its own questions, its own attempt to make sense of the senseless. Claire's deskmate sat on the hostel steps, her eyes swollen from crying. They were inseparable. I used to envy them. Kelvin's laughter, Claire's quiet strength, they balanced each other. I thought they were unbreakable. But maybe that was the problem. We only saw the surface. We didn't see the cracks beneath. Her words dissolved into sobs. In the lecture hall, the professor stood before an empty seat. His voice faltered. Claire was brilliant. Her questions were sharp, her answers precise. But brilliance can be fragile. Sometimes it hides battles we cannot see. Kelvin, he was light. He carried joy into every room. Together, they were promise. Now, they are memory. He paused, his eyes misting. We teach knowledge, but perhaps we forget to teach listening. Perhaps we forget to see the human behind the grade. At the burial, Kelvin's mother clutched his photo, her voice trembling. Mother shedding tears told all, he was my son. My joy. My future. He loved her. He gave her everything. And now, nothing. She wrote to us, apologizing. But how do you forgive the theft of a heartbeat? How do you forgive the silence of a child's laughter? Her tears fell onto the photo, blurring his smile. In another town, at Claire's burial. Claire's mother held her daughter's letter, her hands shaking. Mother, she was my child. Now I have none. I prayed for her every night. I asked God to protect her. But the devil took control, she said. And I wonder, did I fail her? Did I fail to see her pain? Did I fail to save her? Her voice broke, swallowed by grief. At the vigil, candles flickered against the night. Students, families, strangers gathered, their faces solemn. Community elder, this is not just tragedy. It is a reminder. We must listen. We must see the pain behind the smiles. We must remember that silence can be deadly. The crowd bowed their heads, the flames trembling in the wind. Each voice carried sorrow, but together they formed a chorus of empathy. Claire was not evil, she was broken. Kelvin was not careless, he was loving. Their story was not just of loss, but of lessons unlearned. And in the voices of grief, one truth echoed, behind every smile may lie battles unseen. The campus eventually returned to its rhythm, lectures resumed, football matches played, laughter echoed again. But beneath the surface, something had changed. The tragedy lingered like a scar, invisible yet permanent. Students carried the memory of Kelvin's laughter, Claire's quiet intensity. Professors remembered the empty seats. Families carried the weight of letters written in trembling hands. As memories resurfaced, many present remembered. Claire was not evil. She was broken. She carried too much expectations, fears, insecurities, and in her breaking, she broke the one who loved her most. Her letters were not excuses, but confessions of a soul drowning. Kelvin was not careless. He was loving. He gave himself fully, believing love could heal. His warmth was real, his devotion unwavering. He became a casualty not of malice, but of despair. The tragedy was not only in the act, but in the silence before it. The unspoken battles, the hidden tears, the letters never sent. It was a reminder that behind every smile may lie battles unseen, and that listening deeply can sometimes save a life. At the university vigil for lost souls, candles flickered against the night. A student stood, her voice trembling but clear. We cannot undo what happened. But we can learn. We can listen. We can see the pain behind the silence. And we can choose empathy, even when it feels impossible. The crowd bowed their heads, the flames trembling in the wind. The story of Claire and Kelvin became more than tragedy, it became a call to compassion. A reminder that brokenness deserves understanding, that love deserves protection, and that silence must never be ignored. And in the hearts of those left behind, sorrow mingled with empathy. For Kelvin, whose love was real. For Claire, whose pain was real. And for the fragile humanity that binds us all.